Welcome back to the Nearly Men podcast. I'm here with my co-host, John. I don't know why that's become a normal thing we say at the start of every podcast.
It's a bit weird, isn't it?
Weird,
we'll keep it.
Yeah, it's normal now. And we're joined today by my arch nemesis on Instagram and TikTok. If you've watched the Soccer Archive content, JFTV Luca, welcome.
Thank you, guys.
You're I think you're actually our first non-English team fan that we've had on.
It's a big honour, though.
Branching
big
out.
privilege.
Yeah. So those of you who haven't seen the content on the Instagram and TikTok, you should watch it first of all.
It's good fun.
We both work with the Soccer Archive, who do technically work with the podcast. We've not actually activated it yet, but they are actually a friend of the pod.
They are
Genuine friend of the pod.
Big up.
And we do a lot of like guess the player stuff against each other, and you have a very loyal fan base within the Soccer Archive sphere, don't you?
I do. I feel sorry for you sometimes because the comments can be a little bit too much.
Mate, they just hate me.
Really?
Like I beat him the other day. I pulled out this
It was lucky, to be
unbelievable
fair.
guess. It wasn't. It was, and
It was pure luck.
You knew that it was a
pure luck.
really good guess from me. I worked out who this player was.
It was pure
and
luck.
all the comments are just like, man, Luca's so unlucky. Like, how has that happened to him? Like, I just guess. I'm like, I do have a name, first of all.
That one was luck, though, Ollie. There's
It wasn't,
one
it was skill.
that was a really good pull. The Italian player that played in England and Serie A. It's not out yet, though. Do you remember the one that played for Palace? We can't say the name yet because it's not out.
That
one was a good pull.
Yeah. That was a good pull. I've got ball knowledge, mate.
You do, to be fair, but I'm a noble opponent.
You are a noble opponent. You've got that international knowledge. Juventus fan, aren't you?
Yes,
That's
big
what we're going
Juventus
to talk
fan.
about on this
Yeah.
podcast. Juventus, not necessarily a nearly team in the context of Italy.
No.
Well, not a nearly team in the context of Italy at all. But in the context of European football, at least in our lifetime,
They are the
very
nearly team.
much a nearly team. Have you won the European Cup in any capacity?
We've won the Champions League twice. The
Okay.
European Cup in 1985 against Liverpool and 1996 Champions League against Ajax. But we've lost the most Champions League finals in their history with 7.
Oh,
7 losses. So
ouch.
That's painful.
It's painful. It's very painful. So we're the ultimate nearly team, I guess, in the Champions League. Been to 9 finals, only won 2. It's
Damn.
a really saddening record.
It's like a first world nearly team.
Yes.
It's like, oh no, we've got to so many Champions League finals.
Yeah.
I take losing to some Champions League finals. But we start every podcast with the same question. Do you want to ask the question today?
We do. We start every podcast with the same question, which is, what is one game you went to
Or watched?
or
Just
watched?
checking it out, okay.
You don't have to be in there. That ultimately meant nothing, but it was your favourite game.
So I wasn't at this game, but I watched it on TV. I went to the game before, actually, in the Euros group stage. It was Euros 2024.
Okay.
Italy versus Croatia. It was the final day of the match, the match day. So group stage game number 3. It was like whoever won this would qualify in second place because Spain had topped the group. They'd won all their games, and we were playing against Croatia. So it was very tense. It was like whoever wins this goes to the round of 16. And we scored a last-minute winner with Zaccagni. I'm not sure if you guys remember the goal. It was like Calafiori went on
Calafiori
that.
ran through the middle. Yeah,
exactly. Then he
yeah.
laid it off to Zaccagni. The Italian commentary is just stuck in my head.
Yeah.
He like curls it top corner outside the box. I was going crazy. We were all going crazy. We were like, maybe we could go on a little run again as the retaining European holders at the time. And then we just got booted out by Switzerland. I think it was 3-0. We lost really badly. In the round of
Really?
16.
I
Yeah.
do.
And then
remember
England
that.
beat Switzerland
Yes.
the game after.
in the quarters.
I remember that game was tense. The Croatia game. Modric
Very.
missed the penalty and then
Yes.
scored like instantly afterwards.
it
on his
was-
yeah.
It was so close, that game.
Yeah.
And I didn't think we were going to beat Croatia because they had a very good team. And that game was just like the emotion at the end was probably what made that game the best nearly game almost because it amounted to nothing. We got booted out by Switzerland in embarrassing fashion.
What happened in that tournament for Italy? Like, what would you say? Were you just weak as a team? I mean, defending champions, and to kind of go out to Switzerland like that.
It was probably one of the most like lackluster retaining Euros or just European team in general, really.
Yeah.
I think we were weak mentally because we didn't qualify for the World Cup 2 years before. So I think the players really weren't in the mind frame to be able to challenge again for the Euros. I think the squad as well was a lot weaker compared to Euros 2021. Guys like Jorginho were past it. Verratti wasn't there. Chiesa just came back from an ACL tear. He wasn't the same. Insigne wasn't there. Chiellini, Bonucci obviously weren't there. I mean, it was a weaker team on paper, but I just don't think we were there mentally. And Spalletti came in. He was the manager. I don't think he knew his best team. He was constantly changing game after game, the system, the players. It was almost like he was just throwing stuff on the wall, trying to land something. Like even the first game against Albania, we were very fortunate to even win that game. I knew we weren't going to even challenge for the Euros title again. So it was a weak title retention team, but I think we just weren't there mentally and physically.
Yeah.
Do you think you've got better since then?
Yeah, I was going to ask, where's Italy now?
Same level. Same level,
Yeah.
really. I mean, we're not going to qualify automatically to the World Cup. I mean, there's a chance, but Norway have to lose to us and lose to Estonia, I believe, which is highly unlikely. They're in such great form. They've won all their group games. They battered us like 2 months ago. I think we could potentially qualify through the playoffs. We're guaranteed to go to the playoffs, depends who we play. But I think even then, I mean, 2 playoffs in a row for the 2018 World Cup, the 2022 World Cup, we didn't qualify for either. So there's going to be there's definitely going to be a mental blockade from the players' perspective, which is going to be tough.
It's weird with Italy, isn't it? Because like Euro 2020
I
seemed to
know.
like plaster over actually a really bad like 10, 15 years
Yes.
for Italy's football. What is going on there? You're just not producing. I feel like you're not producing the players of when you won the World Cup. Obviously the
Yeah, of
huge
course.
names. Like what? Why?
It's a weird one because, like you said, like I'd say from the 2006 World Cup onwards, it was a dark history, like period of history for Italian football. Apart from like the 2012 sort of run where we went to the final, we got battered by Spain, but Spain were just too good. But that was a decent little run we had. But in the World Cup, it was just like failure after failure after failure. Grouped in 2010, grouped in 2014, not qualified for 2018. So going into the Euros, we had Mancini as our coach, and I feel like a lot of people forget this, but going into that Euros, we were on the longest unbeaten streak for an international team, and we still have that to this day because Argentina lost to Saudi Arabia in the World Cup, so they could have surpassed it easily, but they didn't. So we still have that record. So we were going in with very, very good form, and I feel like a lot of other fans didn't really realise that and weren't really paying attention to Italy. So us Italians, we knew we could be an underdog for this tournament. And I remember watching the first game, I think Switzerland, we won 3-0, and I was like, wow, we're strong. Like, we could win this.
Was that the first game of the tournament?
Yeah.
I think
in
I
Rome.
remember watching it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Italy,
and
Switzerland.
that is such a classic, nearly team thing to happen to England, that you play Italy, who like either side of that tournament were just non-existent.
Yeah.
And then they just put together an unbeaten run, the record international unbeaten run, and knock you out in the final.
Yeah.
What was that like watching Italy beat England? I assume you watched the game in England.
Oh.
Yes, yeah, at home.
We've
Pain.
spoken about it a lot on this
Pain.
podcast as one of the most painful experiences we've ever had as a football fan, not just an England fan. Did you feel any remorse for England? Because you must semi root for England,
Yeah.
just being around England fans.
With England, it's like people don't understand why I support. I support Italy because my parents were Italian, but I was born in London for context. So naturally, being around my dad watching football, I support Juventus because he's a Juventus fan. I support Italy because he cheers for Italy. So it's always been like that. But as soon as Italy are out of the competition, I back England. But in that tournament, I remember it was so intense because all my friends at school, I was in year 12 at the time, I was in sixth form, and my friends were just battering me. They were like, no, we're going to win this, we're going to win. It was bragging rights. So I was like, wow, if we lose this, I can't show my face at school. It was dangerous territory. And I was very nervous going into that game. Probably the most nervous I'd ever been, probably since the Champions League final that Juventus were in 2017. And when Shaw made it 1-0, like the 3rd minute, it was something so early on. I was like, my head dropped.
Yeah.
My dad's head dropped, and we were just silent. We were like, I thought it was over. I genuinely thought there and then it was done because it was at Wembley. The majority of the crowd were English fans.
Yeah.
So it was just I was super nervous. But I remember we eased our way back into the game. We retained possession. Southgate dropped off a lot in that game. I remember you were almost playing on the back foot after that, which I thought was, looking back on it, was probably the wrong move he did. I think he gave us the ball too much. He showed us too much respect, and we managed to get a goal from Bonucci in the second half, which was crazy because I remember at halftime I was messaging my friend and he was like, I don't know why, but I feel like Bonucci's going to score. I was like, there's no chance Bonucci scores.
Yeah.
And he actually did, which was insane timing. And as soon as Bonucci scored and my friend said that, I was like, I think we're going to win this. And then obviously we won on penalties, which is just pure luck. It's a toss of the coin. England, they're not great at penalties. In terms of up until then, England were very unfortunate. And then also like Kane missed the penalty in the 2022 World Cup. But Euros last year, England were very, very good when it came to penalties. But up until then, history just wasn't kind to England in penalty shootouts. So
I also feel like taking a penalty against Donnarumma would be terrifying.
yeah, he's
Like,
massive.
He's huge.
He's huge. But then when Jorginho missed the last pen,
yeah,
that gave so much hope to England and I was like head in hands. And then obviously Donnarumma pulled off a great save against Saka. But yeah, I was very nervous going into that. And that England team was great. But I do think the England team now is a lot stronger than them. Looking back, like especially Euros 2024 England, a lot better.
I was going to ask you about this towards the end of the podcast, but it makes sense to do it now. I think it's interesting to hear from a non-England fan. I know you said you root for England when Italy are out, but you're more neutral than most of us when it comes to England.
For sure.
How do you rate England's chances at the World Cup next year? Do you think this is another overhyped England team full of overhyped stars, or do you think they've actually got a chance of doing something special?
No, of course. I think this is a great team. I think they've got a great chance. Arguably, in terms of squad depth in every sort of realm of the football pitch, I think you can sort of compare England to a club side. I'd probably say Arsenal in terms of the options they have in every position. I don't think they're the favourites on paper. I'd probably go. I'd be looking at Spain, or France, potentially in Argentina, just because in recent tournaments they've been more successful. And I feel like with England, they just don't have the heritage in these sort of competitions to be deemed as the concrete favourite. I feel like you need a lot of luck in international tournaments as well, which England haven't really had over the last few years. But I think the squad itself is incredible. Tuchel's a great coach, especially a knockout stage coach. He's the best coach you've had that I've seen in my lifetime for sure. And I think England could definitely potentially go on to win it. But I think like the sometimes I feel like England fans play up to it a little bit more, where they hype it up too much. They expect so much and then they get massively disappointed. I feel like it's sort of like they have nothing. I don't want to say nothing to lose, all to gain, but it is still like a young team. Like they're still going to compete for the next tournaments to come. And Tuchel, this is his first international tournament. So I feel like there shouldn't be too much pressure on that squad going into it. And I feel like just like Italy in Euros 2021, there was no pressure and they could play freely, don't have a mental blockade, which would help England, I think, going into that tournament. But if I'm looking at like definitely top 4 favourites for sure.
That's so interesting you say there was no pressure for Italy, because I think if England were going into a competition with the potential of breaking a record of being unbeaten, it would just be all everyone was talking about. But for Italy, going back to that tournament, was there not pressure on the team to... How many games was it going into Euros roughly that you were unbeaten?
In the 20s.
Something 20.
In the 20s, yeah.
In England, I feel like we'd won 20 games in a row. We've got to win the tournament. But you're saying it wasn't really like that?
No, I think it was more of a situation we got nothing to lose, all to gain. It was almost like the nation was broken after not qualifying for the 2018 World Cup. Like that was the first time in Italy's history where they hadn't qualified for the World Cup. It was a massive issue. Like I think they were even talking about it in government, like how big of a problem that was. Genuinely, it was like it was a disaster. So going into it, Mancini sort of unified the nation. He unified the team, and we were playing very free-flowing football, and we looked incredible. So it was like going into it, we didn't really want to say, oh, we could potentially win this, because we had heartbreak 3 years before, because it was Euros 2021. We were just going in and like England have a strong team, Portugal have a strong team at the time. I think France were the favourites at the time. Germany had a good team. It was like, just play our football and we'll see what happens. And then sort of just things started clicking. The Austria game where we were really fortunate, they had a goal chalked off. We scored 2 goals in extra time, Chiesa and Pessina. Things were just going our way. And then we beat Belgium, which was a massive statement because, again, they were one of the strongest teams in it. Yeah. And then I think after the Belgium game, that's when the Italians started to realise, actually, we could win this. And then we were lucky against Spain as well, won on penalties there. Spain were the better team over the 90 minutes. I was at that game. And then the rest was history. But yeah, it was like nothing to lose, all to gain. That was kind of the mentality going into it.
I think, unfortunately, the mentality amongst England fans is we have like everything to lose.
Yeah.
And we have that in every tournament. But I think especially... You know, you said it's Tuchel's first international tournament. It could be his last for England. No. If we don't win, I think he only signed an 18-month contract.
That's it. Like you were saying rightfully as well. Like, oh, it's just one tournament. You got to build. We've got a great team. It doesn't feel like that with Tuchel. It feels like he's that final piece, and if it doesn't work, it's a disaster. That's
why I liked Southgate, because it felt like you were building something.
Yeah, from the 2018 World Cup to now.
It's a shame it didn't get its natural conclusion. Before we go on to Juve, we've discussed this on the podcast. Who do you think should start in the number 10, Bellingham or Palmer for England?
Oh, Jude.
Good man.
I think I saw
this guy knows ball.
I saw I was watching a video the other day actually on YouTube. It was like it was on the SDS. It was like Chunks, Harry Pinero, Liban and Sharky. They were ranking Palmer, Bellingham and Musiala as number 10s. And only one of the 4 had Bellingham first. But for me, like, I think Bellingham's the best 10 in the game.
It's become the new cool thing to do.
Yeah,
it's really weird. Like, we're talking about Jude Bellingham. He's come back from a pretty bad injury and he's scoring the winners in El Clasicos. And it's Jude Bellingham. But it's just this. It's a trend. It's a trend. It's weird.
It's these aesthetic merchants, I think. You look at Musiala, low centre of gravity, Palmer, tricky kind of players. But Bellingham is, like, for me, so effective. He's such a complete midfielder. He can play the 8. He can play the 10. Big goals when it matters, big moments, like you said. I mean, 100%. The El Clasico the other day, the assist was world class. That's also the highest standard.
Yeah,
and he scored.
And he scored.
Right place, right time.
Yeah.
Done it for England, done it for Real Madrid. Like, oh, come on, man.
And he's there, like, giving it to, like, Yamal and Pedri.
He's
and I'm like,
mate,
he's like a 22-year-old English guy. And he's kind of the opposite of what most England youngsters are, in that most of them are kind of really hyped up in England and other fans dismiss them a bit. I think Bellingham is way higher rated outside of England than he is inside England.
Yeah.
There's probably a bit of bitterness that he didn't choose to play for a Premier League team. And then I think tribalism comes into it. But yeah, like, you watch even just like a compilation from the game against Barca, I'm just like, this guy is just, this isn't an England player. That is not an England player.
It's true. I love Pedri, for example, but that game there, Bellingham taught him a midfielding lesson. He was absolutely incredible. So for me, Jude is like, I think Kane, Jude are the two most important England players, and then Saka as well is great. But like they're for me the two main centerpieces.
Well, we've spoken a lot about England. Everything goes back to England in England football podcasts.
It's our trauma. We're just trying to cope.
Yeah. Let's talk about Juve. So, as we mentioned, domestically in Italy, over the past 15 years, dominant. Well, not the last 5 years, but the 10 years before that, dominant. And in that period of time, you never quite got over the line in Europe, despite 2 finals. I don't think you got knocked out in the semis, actually, did you, at any point in that run?
No, never.
But 2 quarterfinals, 1 quarterfinal, which is very memorable, which we spoke about earlier, which I thought was a semi-final, but it was a quarterfinal against Real Madrid at the Bernabeu.
Yeah.
But I think it's good to get some context as to how Juve arrived as the dominant force in Italy, because it hasn't always been like that. And Italy's had a lot of incredible teams, both the Milan clubs in particular in the 2000s. How did Juve go from relegated to Serie B to the most dominant team in Italy in the space of 5 or 6 years?
Yeah, so we were relegated in 2006. It was calciopoli, the scandal.
You weren't relegated because you're bad at football, just to be clear.
No,
you were relegated amongst... Well, you could do a whole podcast on that, but
yeah, calciopoli's like, there's so many loopholes. It's so confusing. Like, for the average fan, for example, do you know how many teams were actually part of calciopoli, for example?
Well, I looked up on the way here.
4, isn't it?
Is it like Juve, Lazio, Fiorentina and AC Milan?
Yes.
But I thought it was match fixing, but it wasn't.
It was.
I always thought that as well.
Yeah.
I thought it was match fixing.
Because, and Fiorentina and Lazio were both meant to be relegated too.
And AC Milan originally.
But they got overturned and just Juve went down.
This is the thing. Like,
right, so tell me, why had they gone down? What happened?
Yeah.
It was just... I mean,
sum it up in one sentence.
The problem is people are going to say like, oh, I don't know what I'm talking about, I'm biased, but I think in that period they wanted to kill off Juventus. Like, they wanted to... Juventus, like you said, that AC Milan and Inter were very dominant in the 2000s. Inter not so much. It was more AC Milan and Juventus were the two main teams. Because in 04-05 and 05-06, Juventus had won the league back-to-back. They'd made the Champions League final a couple of years before. And actually the 05-06 Juventus team was... Like, my dad thinks that is the greatest Juventus team ever. I mean, the names in that team, like Trezeguet, Ibrahimovic, Del Piero, Vieira, Emerson, Camoranesi, like Cannavaro, Buffon, Zambrotta, Thuram. Like, the team had about...
Scary.
I think in that starting 11, there was about 6 players that played in the World Cup final in 2006 were part of that Juventus team. Like, 6 or 7. There was a good amount. And we lost to Arsenal in the Champions League that year, and they went on to the final. But that Juventus team was one of the strongest teams in Europe. And... like you said, there was Lazio, there was Fiorentina, there was AC Milan. There were other teams involved, but they wanted to punish solely Juventus. There's always been an agenda, I would say, against Juventus in Italy, even to this day. I mean, a couple years ago, I don't know if you remember, we had points deducted, and the logic...
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we had 15 points deducted, turned into 10, and the logic was because we were selling players at an inflated rate compared to their transfer market price on the website. It was bizarre. So we sold the player for more than they were worth on the website transfer market, and they punished Juventus.
Really?
Yeah, no, it was.
What? That's so strange.
It's bizarre. Like, and Juventus didn't appeal it because Juventus are a club that always just take it. They don't really appeal stuff like that. So in 2006, Juventus were relegated. AC Milan were meant to be relegated. That was the original punishment, and stripped, and not meant to play the Champions League, which they won the season after. So AC Milan shouldn't have even been in that Champions League. But Juventus were relegated, put on like minus 15, 20 points. And it was a dark period for Juventus. A lot of great players left. Emerson left. He went to Madrid. Cannavaro went to Madrid. Thuram went to Barcelona. Ibrahimovic went to Inter. A couple other players left. But the ones that stayed were like Nedved, Del Piero, Trezeguet, Buffon, Camoranesi. Maybe I forgot a few. But those were the main core of players that stayed. And that was dark times. There was like Deschamps, the manager, in that period. There was a couple other ones. But we were just floating around... top 4, 5th, 6th.
What was the allegation? Like, was it match fixing?
It was like...
for all those clubs involved that we set?
Was it referees?
It was to do with the referees, but like what teams would do is they would send a chauffeur to send the referee to the stadium, or like gift them things. Like, but like loads of Italian teams were just looking after the referees. Like, even in the last few years, there's been calls between Moratti, who was the president of Inter, and the referees, like, that have just come out recently. Like, it was a common thing in Italy. It wasn't like, maybe in England and Spain it didn't happen, but in Italy it was just like, it was pretty common.
Yeah.
And Juventus were were punished the most harshly out of all of them. But the biggest myth that I just wanted to address, like, you boys knew it, but a lot of people don't know that it wasn't just Juventus involved. People just think calciopoli was Juventus. It wasn't.
If you're enjoying this episode so far, please do rate us 5 stars.
New episodes drop every single Thursday, so drop us a follow so you don't miss one.
This episode is brought to you by Hill Coaching Company. And if you're a high achiever secretly running on low energy, this one's for you.
You've built success, maybe even the life you wanted, but under the surface, you're stuck, stretched, or just bored.
That's where Oliver Hill comes in. He's the coach for founders, senior leaders, and top performers who don't need more. They need better.
At Hill Coaching Company, the focus is personal and powerful. No fluff, no filler. Just honest, challenging conversations that get to the root of what's next. Whether that's clarity, impact, freedom, or finally feeling fulfilled.
Clients say it's like upgrading their life and business in one go. So if you're done with the hustle hangover and ready to build a life you don't need to escape from, visit hillcoachingcompany.co.uk or connect with Oliver on LinkedIn.
Hill Coaching Company, for when success needs meaning.
So after Calciopoli was dark times, we came straight up. We won Serie B straight away. We came back up, but we were just floating in and around mid-table. And it was the 09-10 and 10-11 season where we finished back-to-back 7th places. And these 2 seasons are really important because it leads into the 9-year dominance. And I think it all changed in 2011 for a few reasons. First of all, we moved into our stadium, and I don't know if you've ever seen like the unveiling of it, but they brought in like a lot of legendary players like Boniperti, who was the old, a great player in the 60s for Juventus, and he was also, I want to say, part of the board, the president at one point of the club, and he gave basically an inspirational quote that kind of resonated with Juventus and Juventus fans. It was like, translate to English, winning isn't important, it's the only thing that counts. And then Antonio Conte came in as the manager, who I'm forever grateful for. He changed my life. He changed every Juventus fan's life. He was the turning point for everything. And after back-to-back 7th place finishes, Conte came in. I think he united the squad. He made them work hard. He made them believe. He brought in players like Pirlo on a free from AC Milan, Vidal from Leverkusen. He made some great signings. Lichtsteiner came in. All just important pieces of the puzzle that went on to almost create that Juventus team in the next 9 years. And he won the league in his first year, in the 11-12 season, going unbeaten as well. Won the league invincible, which I think a lot of football fans don't really actually realise Juventus have done.
I had no idea.
I didn't know that until you mentioned it on Zach Jalab's video.
Yes.
You went through, which I'm sure you'll do now, Conte's CV at Juve, and it's insane.
It's ridiculous. I think like his 3 years at Juventus is probably the best 3 years for any manager league-wise ever for a club. League-wise only. Like, because in Europe, we'll talk upon Europe, Conte's resume is horrible. So he won the league invincible in his first season. He went back-to-back in the 12-13 season. And in the 13-14 season, which was his last year at Juventus, he won the league getting 102 points, the most points ever in the top 5 leagues, winning all 19 games at home, the only Italian team to ever do that. He won every single game at home. And he built up the foundations for then Allegri's Juventus, which for me reached a different level, was a lot stronger, but he built the foundations for that team. And Conte was a changing point. But also like Agnelli, the president, was incredible. Nedved, the vice president, was incredible. Marotta, who for me is the greatest sporting director I've seen. He's now at Inter. He left Juventus, I think, after the Ronaldo sale. He was against signing Ronaldo and he went to Inter. And he's built up for their dominant period almost in Italy as well. Just everything about Juventus was just organised from top to bottom, and they rebuilt Juventus from the ground up, for sure.
It's really interesting, and the topic of our podcast being nearly men. Obviously, Juventus currently, at the time of recording, are in a bit of a bad spot. But you go through that 10-year period, and you said finishing 7th was so important twice to build that. It's really just interesting to hear like how you go from being the top dogs to knocked off down to the Serie B and then up you come again, and then just getting back to like a 10-year period of dominance.
It's mental.
With
like,
huge teams in that league of Inter, AC Milan,
exactly.
These teams that you got to compete with.
When Juventus were relegated, I definitely don't think that the Italian Federation thought that Juventus would be so dominant again so quickly. It all happened within the span of 5 years. Juventus went from the 2nd division to building a team that would win 9 league titles in a row. It was absolutely insane, and it's just, I think it's one of the coolest stories, I think, in football, especially in the modern era.
So Conte kind of built the foundations for Allegri, and you said
Yes.
you dominated Italy in that period of time, but you didn't have the success in Europe that at least Allegri nearly got under Conte. And has Conte really done it for anyone in Europe? He didn't do it with Chelsea.
His resume is horrible.
I don't think he's been past the quarterfinals.
Really?
No, I don't think so.
Why do you think he didn't work?
Conte, well, the best he's ever
in
done.
the UCL, that is.
In the Champions League, he's horrible. The best he's done was Europa League finals with Inter in 2020, where he lost to Sevilla. That's the best he's done in the knockout stage of a European competition, but that's the Europa League. In the Champions League, he's never done well. I feel like with Conte, it's he's a more one-game-a-week manager, where he focuses solely on the league, and he's really good at almost building a team that can be successful over a 38-game stretch, home and away. They know what their job is. In Europe, especially when he was almost like Juventus, there was too many factors going into it, as in like away goals, couple games a week, which was like he was prioritizing the league always. So he would sometimes play a second team or a weekend team, and the team was almost be comfortable, I would say. Obviously, I wasn't in a part of it, so I don't want to misjudge, but they would rather lose a European game than a league game, because Conte's thing has always been bring Juventus back to the top of Italian football. That's super important. Even in Italy, I think the attitude in general is like the Serie A is the most important thing. Then the Champions League is always an added bonus. You want to win the league. That's the main goal. But I can't really pinpoint a reason for it. Conte's he's just not good in Europe. It's weird because he's one of the best league managers ever. And his resume, not just at Juventus, is insane. He won the league in his first year with Chelsea in the Premier League.
Yeah.
He ended Juventus's 9-year dominance that he built by winning the league with Inter in 2021, building the foundations for Inzaghi's Inter, which then went on to win another league title and then 2 Champions League finalists. And in his first year for Napoli last year, he won the league as well.
Yeah.
So it's like he's a league specialist. And I was speaking obviously to Zach about that. Well, not Zach, but the guy I debated in the Zach video about it. Like in terms of domestic success, I don't think I've seen a manager who has a more impressive resume than Conte.
No, I think you're convincing me for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to ask you, how is he seen in Italy? Like, you summed it up there. Like, he's obviously, like, as a Juventus fan, I guess. How do you see Conte now that he's at Napoli? He's been to Inter.
Yeah.
Is it a little bit, like, tainted for you, what he did?
No.
Or do you still love him? Does he get, like, would he get a round of applause when he goes to Juventus Stadium as a Napoli manager? Does he get love?
Yeah, it's weird, really, because I think Conte had an issue with Andrea Agnelli, who was the old Juventus president. So when he returned... Well, he actually only returned with Inter, but it was like lockdown years, so there were no fans in the crowd. So I don't know if there would have been a standing ovation or what. But last year when he came to the stadium, I was actually at it. It was Juventus-Napoli. We tied, I think 1-1 or 0-0. I don't remember. It was a draw. And Conte did a lap, and the whole Juventus stadium were applauding him. Because we're forever grateful for what he did. And for me personally, I know when he went to Inter, there were some Juventus fans that were against it. You can't go to Inter. For me, I don't care, because in Italy, it's not like in the Premier League. Players and managers just go on a merry-go-round around the big clubs in Italy.
It's true, actually,
it's so common. Like Ibrahimovic has been at the big 3. Bonucci's been at the big 3. Pirlo's been at the big 3. There's so many players that have played for Inter, Juventus, AC Milan, just constantly going around, whether that's players or managers. For me, if you've succeeded at Juventus and help us succeed, I don't care where you go. And maybe if you go from Juventus straight to Inter, like Bonucci when he went straight from Juventus to AC Milan, that left a sour taste in a lot of Juventus fans' mouth. And a lot of people haven't really forgiven him for that. Or Cuadrado when he went from Juventus to Inter, that annoys people. But Conte didn't go from Juventus to Inter straight away. He went to Juventus, national team, Chelsea, break, Inter. So like it wasn't an issue. And now he's at Napoli. Napoli fans love him because he won the league title. It's kind of like now. Today, Spalletti got appointed to Juventus.
I saw that, yeah. He's got a Napoli tattoo.
He's got a Napoli tattoo. He's coached Inter, Roma, Napoli. He's never been like positive about Juventus, let's say. But he's the Juventus coach, so I'm going to get behind him. I don't know what the attitude of every Juventus fan is, but it's pretty normal, I would say. But for me, Conte is like... He will always be my favourite coach ever because of what he did for the club.
So Conte goes, and then Allegri becomes the manager, and in 2015 you reach your first Champions League final under him. I mean, it's a pretty good excuse to lose a Champions League final when you play against like prime Barcelona.
MSN.
Yeah, you've got, well, maybe the second iteration of prime Barcelona. You have Messi, Suarez and Neymar. But Juve were in that final. Yes. I remember watching it quite clearly. I think Barca went 1-0 up.
Yeah,
and then Morata equalised.
Yep.
Do you think that was just a case of you just played against a team that was too good?
First of all, because you just reminded me, when Conte left Juventus, actually that was a bad point because he left a few days before the actual season started. So Juventus fans were really annoyed because Conte has a bad attitude. He just walks when he gets annoyed. Juventus, he wanted Cuadrado. Juventus said no. All right, I'm going. Like he got annoyed over something like that. And Allegri came in, so we're always grateful for Allegri coming in on short notice, and he did great. On that final though, I was so young. I was 11. So like I didn't really know what it meant at the time for us to be in a Champions League final, because I didn't know about calciopoli. I didn't know about all those things when I was 11. I would just watch Juventus and mostly play football. I cared more about playing than watching at that age. Then as I grew up, it switched. It was the opposite. But so for me, it was like, wow, we're in a Champions League final. That's pretty normal. No, that's quite good. But going up against that Barca team, it was tough. It was tough. I knew it was going to be tough because they had Messi, Suarez, Neymar. They had a great team. They were very dominant throughout the whole knockout stage. They had knocked out, I believe, the champions of France, the champions of England at the time, City, champions of Germany in Bayern Munich, and then it was the champions of Italy. So in terms of like looking back on it in hindsight, they beat the champions of every single country. So that's like the ultimate deserved winner, in my opinion, of a Champions League. It's like the old knockout. It's like the old format of the European Cup where, I don't know if you guys know this, but only the winner of each league would qualify. It wasn't a top four like that. So they deserved to win that. But we beat Real Madrid in the 14-15 season in the semis.
I was going to say, do you think that version of Juve was the best one that you've seen? Because I remember watching that as a neutral, and obviously you had the spine of like Buffon, Bonucci, Chiellini, but then it was like a diamond midfield, right, of Pirlo, Marchisio, Vidal, and Pogba, and it was just it's quite weird to think of a narrow midfield like that working in modern football. You don't see it very often, but it just did. And then who was up front with Morata? Tevez. I forgot Tevez played for Juve.
Man.
That is a good team.
It's a great team.
team.
And then you had like Evra, you had Lichtsteiner, Barzagli, you had like squad depth.
Yeah.
That is the best Juventus team I've seen. However, names-wise, we're going to touch upon it. I think the 16-17 team had better names.
Yes.
But I think the 14-15 team, as a system, was the best. But going into the final, I was confident because we had beaten Real Madrid, who were a great team, a very dominant team. So I was like, wow, we have a really good chance. And people forget, but that was the first Champions League final ever where both teams were going in for a treble. Juventus had won the league and the Coppa Italia. Barcelona had won the league and the Copa del Rey. So it was like, whoever wins this gets the treble. It's the first time ever, I think, where two teams were playing for the treble. But that game there, like you said, Ollie, was way more even than people actually make it out to be. People look at the score and think it was 3-1, Barcelona wiped the floor of Juventus. It's not the case. The third goal from Neymar came right at the end.
Yeah, it was like a breakaway.
Yeah,
goal,
it was like, we had a corner. They hit us in transition. It was Kingsley Coman defending against two Barca players, Neymar and someone else, and then they played a quick 1-2. It was 3-1, but it was a close game. When Barca went 1-0 up, I was stressing, but Morata got us back into it, and I was a bit more confident. We were easing our way into the game. And I think the moment that changed everything, I don't know if you remember, but there was a penalty shout on Pogba from Dani Alves. Dani Alves pulled Pogba down in the box. And in my opinion, it was a penalty. And I think if VAR existed back then, it would have been given the penalty. And straight away from that transition, Suarez scored. So they scored straight away after. If that penalty was given to Juventus, I think Tevez would have buried it, but obviously these are just hypotheticals. If it was 2-1 Juventus, I think it could have been a different game. We had the best defence in the world at that point. We could have maybe seen out a game. It could have been different. Obviously, these are just hypotheticals, but looking back on it, it was a lot of a closer final than people make it out to be. And that Barcelona team, for me, was better than that Juventus team. And it's a shame, really, that in a span of 3 years, we played two of the best club teams in the history of the game. So that's very unfortunate. But that Barcelona team was great. But I think on another day, we could have easily won that final. And if you gave me the chance to replay either 14-15 or 16-17, I'm picking 14-15 every single time.
Can we just quickly touch on Pogba?
Yes.
Because he's come up as, he was in your nearly man 11, was he?
He was,
a player who you make a pretty good argument saying he peaked at Juve in that period of time. Do you think that system was just built for him to succeed, or do you think that maybe he didn't choose the right club afterwards, or how do you view Pogba's career as a Juve fan?
I think more the second one. I think when Pogba came into the club, I think he was 19. He won the what's it called, the European Golden Ball, what's the young one?
Golden Boy.
Golden Boy. The Golden Boy award first year. I think in the first training session, Pirlo said that him and Buffon were looking at each other, laughing, thinking, Man United let go of this guy for free. This guy was fake. This guy was a level above everyone. He was physically imposing. He had 2 feet. He had a great final pass. He had a crazy strike, man. He was skillful. He was 6'4", but he glided almost as if he was like a Hazard kind of stature. He was almost Zidane-esque in terms of his build, but aesthetically so pleasing. He was a super complete midfielder. I think he improved massively under Allegri because he played him closer to goal, where he really flourished, almost like Jude Bellingham, where he was getting on the end of things. He was a box crasher. His goal tally improved massively compared to when he was under Conte. But for me, he left Juventus in the wrong moment, first of all, and he went to the wrong club, 100%. He left at the end of the 15-16 season, where Juventus was still one of the best teams in the world. The season after, we went to the Champions League final. With Pogba, we could have easily won that Champions League, I reckon. He left, for me, as the best midfielder in the world at that time. I think in the 15-16 season he was, because I think Modric was just getting into his prime. Iniesta was, I think, like a season past it. Xavi had already left Barcelona. I think in that moment, Pogba was the best midfielder in the world. But I think he should have stayed at Juventus another season and then gone to either. If he went to England, he should have only gone to City, but Madrid or Barcelona, I think. So he went to the wrong club. And if he went to a better club, say if he went to Madrid, he would have a few Champions Leagues to his name. I think we'd be having completely different discussions about Pogba. World Cup winner, Champions League winner, league title winner in Spain, Italy. He'd be an all-timer midfielder for most people. So like you said, I think he is a perfect example of a nearly man.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you think it's fair. Because when I said it raises eyebrows, because he's a World Cup winner.
He's a
but
great
it's
player.
like what he could have been.
Yeah,
that's the
and
thing.
That World Cup win almost shows what he could have been, because it's fair to say that he was France's main player in that run. And obviously they had incredible players. They had Griezmann, Kante, and they were defensively really solid. Yeah, Mbappe obviously coming through, but like Pogba was probably the best player on that team.
Yeah.
But that was during his time at Man United when things weren't really working. It's probably quite a good lesson about picking your strengths as a midfielder. And you mentioned Bellingham, and when you said that he was a really complete midfielder, I immediately thought of Bellingham and how people say, oh, you should put him in a midfield role where he can just do everything. And it's like, well, no, you can't do everything as a footballer. You need to pick something that you're good at. Yeah, and Pogba was just perennially in that state at United. It was always who's going to unlock Pogba.
Yeah, it was always that, wasn't it?
Matic came in and unlocked him for like a year, and then it just all went.
Yeah, I think when you look at Pogba at United, from my perspective, it's just about the players he had around him. Like, there are often players who need the top quality players to perform at the highest level around them. You're a midfielder, you kind of need that. There's only so much you can do in centre mid for Man United when you're looking around and you've got like Dan James playing next to you. Like, no disrespect, but you're like, hang on, like that should be Eden Hazard. Like, you know what I mean? That's the type of player he should be playing with.
Yeah.
It's true. With Pogba, it's a hard one. I thought also at United, he wasn't played in his role. Like at Juventus, I think he was best as a 10, advanced midfielder. Sometimes you're seeing him in a double pivot. He was just wasted there, Pogba. He was just wasted, and it was a complete wrong move for him to go to United. I'm sure in hindsight he regrets going back. I feel like he went back, A, because Raiola got 20 million, so he would have forced him to go there. B, I feel like he thought he had unwritten almost story there to kind of complete.
Yeah. It was a good storyline.
Yeah, it was a good storyline if it succeeded. Like, but it just, in that moment in time, United just, they weren't the right team. But the thing is with like Pogba and Neymar and those kind of players, it's like, I feel like football fans in general sometimes put what could have been above like what is / what was.
Totally agree.
But I feel like Neymar and Pogba, they're not comparable in that regard. Like when people say like Neymar's an nearly man, I think that's completely disrespectful. But Pogba, I sort of see it more because we didn't see Pogba at the top of football for as long as we saw Neymar and as long as Pogba should have been at the top of football for. I still think Pogba had an incredible career. For me, he's still, like, in terms of that, I've seen an all-time midfielder. I think he's one of the best I've ever seen, especially in his peak. But I get frustrated because I think had his career gone the way it should have gone, in terms of amending the wrong individual decisions, he could concretely be like a table 1 midfielder for the majority of football fans. So,
yeah, Mourinho definitely wasn't a good
fit for
fit for Pogba. Obviously, another good reason he went to United was because he could film an announcement video with Stormzy.
That was very cold.
Pogback.
Yeah, that was sick.
Yeah, it was.
That
good.
was like that felt like when announcement videos became a real thing.
That's the best one.
I watched it back.
I
was
like,
a big one. Wow.
Look, man, I'm the one they all fear.
Yeah, mate, it was sick.
The man of the year last year.
Good.
That's the best one ever. But that was about that's one of his highlights, though. United. That's the problem.
His time at United peaked during that video.
That's the problem, man.
15-16, so the season after. How was the Champions League run in that season? So you still think you were one of the best teams in the world in that time?
100%.
Talk us through why. So who won the Champions League that year? Don't tell me. 15-16. Oh, Real Madrid, obviously.
Sorry.
Should have guessed.
First of their 3 in a row.
Oh, was that was against
Juventus and then
I was against Atletico.
At San Siro.
Yeah.
When I called out Clattenburg because he gave the horrible
decision.
On Zach's video, I saw that.
That was when Ramos's goal was offside.
Yeah.
But it wasn't offside. Like, they gave it, but it should have been offside.
That was good.
So who knocked you out that year?
Bayern Munich.
Bayern Munich.
Yeah, Bayern Munich. I don't know if you've ever seen that goal. It's like on edits all the time. The transition goal from Cuadrado, Morata solo run.
Yeah.
That was the game. We tied, I want to say 2-2 in the first leg. Dybala and Storaro scored, I want to say. Robben scored like his classic cut-in left foot shot. I think it was a draw. We went 1-0 up. Actually, we went 2-0 up, I think. Pogba and Cuadrado scored. We might have lost 3-2 at home. I don't remember, but we were up in the game at the Allianz Arena, and I don't want to dig him out because I love the guy, man, and he loves the club and he cares a lot. But Patrice Evra screwed us in that game.
Really?
There was a moment right at the end. We were winning. It was the end of the game. And in Italy, anytime like Juventus fans sees Evra, they just be like, spazzala, which is like, get rid of it, like boot it long, like hoof it, get that ball out of there. He tried to almost play out from the back and he lost it. And I forgot who put the cross in, but Lewandowski scored the equaliser and it took it to extra time where we eventually just capitulated. But we were so close to get over the line in that game against Bayern Munich. But that team was good. That 15-16 Juventus team was very strong as well.
That would have been Pep's Bayern?
Pep's Bayern, yeah.
When you're thinking about the teams you're coming up against,
They're tough teams though.
Yeah,
that
like
team was
Luis
great.
Enrique, MSN Barca. The following year, Pep at Bayern Munich. I know they didn't win the Champions League, but that is still
Great.
Yeah.
That
an
Bayern team was
elite
great.
team.
Yeah, it was great.
And then you move into Real Madrid.
Yes, 16, 17.
Three in a row team.
Yeah.
Of Bale, Benzema, Ronaldo,
Isco,
Modric.
Modric,
I mean, it's a joke, isn't
Yeah.
it?
It's one of the best club teams ever, for sure.
That game, though, I always remember Mandzukic's goal.
Bicycle
Yeah.
kick.
Where
It's crazy. It's never
ball
spoke
doesn't
about.
touch the ground,
It's
does it?
ridiculous.
They volley
It's
it
such
from
a
never
great
very
goal.
spoke about because you lost the game. Like,
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's
I
one
think
of
that
the
was-
best goals ever.
That was the hardest I've rooted for a team in the Champions League final, because obviously Palace haven't got there yet. But I really wanted Juve to win that because of the heartache in the previous years, and because no one wanted,
No one supports Madrid,
neutral wanted
yeah.
Real Madrid to win that. Who had you beaten to get to that?
We beat
to that final.
Porto round of 16, I want to say. Barca, quarters. That's when Dybala scored 2.
Yeah.
The whole world kind of realised who Dybala was. That was like the game after Barca's remontada against PSG.
Yeah.
So again, going into that game, I feel like most football fans had Barcelona as the favourite. That Barca team in 16-17 was very beatable. I don't think people kind of realised that. I think the remontada sort of like papered over the cracks.
Yeah.
And
PSG beat them 4-0.
Yeah.
and
Juventus
just bowled it.
killed them 3-0 at home. Then it was 0-0 away. We went through. Then we beat Monaco.
Yes.
in
Did
the
Higuain
semis.
score in that?
Yes. Higuain scored a brace.
Ball knowledge.
You seen that ball knowledge,
That's
mate?
good, to be fair. People forget. Higuain scored a brace away. We won 2-0. In the home game, we won 2-1. Mandzukic, Dani Alves, and Mbappe scored. That was the only goal we conceded in the knockout stage. Mbappe was like 17 at the time, and he scored it was a tap-in, but that was the only goal we had conceded. So the defensive record for Juventus was incredible at that point.
It's
going
interesting
into
you
the
talk.
final.
There's so many new names in that team as well, compared to the 14-15.
Yes.
You're mentioning Mandzukic, Dybala, Higuain, even Dani Alves. Like none of those players were there for the first final. So it's impressive you managed to evolve, but still stay at a level where you're not just winning the league, but also getting to Champions League finals again with like an entirely new team.
It's true, because that team was like, the starting 11 was like Buffon, Barzagli, Chiellini, Bonucci, back four. I mean, that's a great defence.
Yeah.
Dani Alves, or Steiner, but Dani Alves sort of cemented his way into the team on the right. Alexandro, who was just incredible that year.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely incredible. A level up on Evra compared to 14-15. Khedira, Marquisio, Dybala, Mandzukic, Higuain. Pjanic as well. Pjanic actually started over Marquisio, but
It's a strong team.
team was so good, man.
Do you think that final is a similar one to the 14-15 and that the scoreline flatters Real Madrid, or
No. I think that final there is an interesting story, which I don't know if you boys know about, so I'm going to tell it. But in the first half, it was 1-1 going into it. Ronaldo scored the opener. I remember when Ronaldo scored, I was just like, oh my God.
This guy.
I loved Ronaldo, but I hated him because he always scored against Juventus. Like, he never didn't score. This guy went 1-0 up. I remember he went to the camera, he was like, un tiro y pa, one shot, bang. And I was like,
Mate, that was also like the most inevitable version of Ronaldo.
Oh,
that was like what he was a joke.
I think he's like the most. I think Messi's the best I've ever seen, but I think that version is like the most juggernaut, inevitable version
you
of any
can't
player
stop
I've
him.
ever
Yeah,
seen.
he was just
He was
sensational.
unstoppable. Then Mandzukic scored that beautiful bicycle kick, and we're going into it half time, 1-1. I'm thinking, okay, we're in this. It's all right. It's okay. Then half time happens. Have you heard about the halftime story at Juventus?
No.
Then we obviously went on to lose 4-1, but half-time happened at Juventus. People say, the question, if you could go back to any point in human history, where would you go? People give me ancient Egypt. I don't care about the pyramids. People give me like Roman Empire. I don't care about the Romans. I would go to the half-time dressing room of Juventus Madrid in Cardiff in 2017 because I need to see what happened. Because there are rumours, and they I think they're true, but there's no like concrete answer because what happens in the dressing room stays in the dressing room, so the players will never talk about it. But from what I've understood, there was a massive argument, massive fight at halftime in Juventus' dressing room between like senior players like Bonucci, who was very, very vocal and aggressive towards the younger players like Dybala at the time, that they weren't pulling their weight in that final. Because if you remember that final, very few players for Juventus really turned up. It was more the senior players like the Dani Alves, the Khedira, the Mandzukic, guys that had played in Champions League finals before. Dybala and Higuain, for example, are two best players really going into it. They were quite quiet. So Bonucci was very vocal, aggressive towards the coach, towards the younger players. There was a massive fight, which caused big disarray between the players, which is bizarre thinking about because you're 1-1 at half-time. You're 45 minutes away, potentially, or added time, whatever, from winning the Champions League against Real Madrid. Like, keep it together. The team was good enough to go on to potentially win. And there was a big, big argument. Now, I'm certain that was filmed because I don't know if you've ever seen the clip of Zidane's half-time team talk in the Real Madrid dressing room. That's on YouTube. That was posted by UEFA. So I'm certain they recorded both just in case of whoever won. Yeah. But that footage has never seen the light of day. It will probably never will. Juventus probably asked to remove it. But there was a complete almost argument, backlash, disarray between the Juventus players. And in the second half, we were a shadow of the team we were in the first half. We capitulated completely. Mentally, physically, we weren't there. So we were battered in the second half, by Real Madrid. They deserved to win that Champions League final. But it was because, in my opinion, what happened at half-time between the Juventus players. And this is further proven by, in that summer, Dani Alves could have extended at Juventus. He went to PSG. And there was no real reason for him to go to PSG apart from, like, Neymar went to PSG that summer. Juventus were a better team at that point. But the biggest telltale is Bonucci went straight from Juventus to AC Milan out of nowhere. And Bonucci that year was in the team of the year alongside Ramos, one of the best defenders in the world. And he just, out of nowhere, forces a move to AC Milan. That was because of the argument that he was at the heart of in that Champions League final. Allegri was like, no, I don't want this guy anymore. I'm sure the board as well were annoyed at what happened and they shipped him off to AC Milan. But that, I think, that really killed us for the second half, what happened at half-time. And I would love to know what happens. I don't know if a player will ever speak about it eventually, maybe more further down the line potentially, but I think that is like maybe the biggest what if in Juventus history, and there's quite a few.
Yeah, that's such a crazy time to lose your heads.
It's bizarre, man.
Not now.
Yeah, looking back on it, I'm sure Bonucci I'm sure all the guys that were involved in that were thinking like, why do we do it? Because I love players with personality, I do, and I think there's a time and place for like when results are going badly, to stick it on certain players if they're not raising their levels. At top clubs, that's normal. But half-time Champions League, you're in the game. You're not playing too badly. Like, it was pretty even up until half-time. I just don't get it. I don't get it in that moment in time. So,
and then, the goals I think Casemiro scored, didn't he? Did he make it 2-1?
Bro, he scored
it's a lucky goal.
A massive deflection, very lucky
goal.
30 yards out.
Yeah. It was one of those days.
Ronaldo scored again.
And
Was it
then
Asensio?
Asensio ended it.
Yeah. I remember watching that in an Irish sports bar when I was like 18.
Okay.
And just being very disappointed that Juve had let me down.
It was heartbreak. And then Cuadrado, probably the worst red card ever. Got sent off at the end, never a red card.
Oh, was that with Ramos?
Ramos went down. Classic Ramos.
I mean, I guess it's what makes Ramos great, but it is annoying when you see players doing that.
So that one hurt. I was upset.
Yeah. But then the following year, 17-18,
these guys
I view that as like, is that fair to say that's probably the end of that era of Juve? Because obviously I know like Ronaldo joined the following year. And
no, I would say the year after.
Okay, so
17-18. We can talk about the year after as well.
17-18, quarterfinals, you lose to Real Madrid again in what was again a very painful tie.
Is this the Ronaldo bicycle kick?
Yeah, it was involved in that tie.
Yeah.
That's what I was in Verona Airport. I remember watching that goal and just screaming. I just stood up and screamed. I think
Juve applauded it, didn't
they?
Yeah,
Juventus applauded it. Yeah.
I mean, going into 17-18 again, the team was just so strong. Like, we had lost a few players from 16-17, but in general, the team was still the same. I didn't think there was much difference. We still could have easily won that Champions League, in my opinion. Quarterfinals against Real Madrid. Again, I'm thinking, actually going into that, I remember I was year 9. It was the draw was going on midday. Like, I'm during class. I'm like, I gotta watch this draw, man. Like, I went to the toilet, pulled my phone out, I was watching. And I wanted Madrid. I actually wanted Madrid because I was like, we've played them in the final. I want us to face them before. Just knock them out and we'll win the Champions League. Like, over 2 legs, we got a chance. In the final, we got no chance, I'm thinking. So we got Madrid. I remember I was like praying for it. Yes, we got Madrid. Day of the game, first leg when Ronaldo scored the bicycle kick at home. I remember watching it with my dad so far. We were watching it. You know, like before the game when the cameras are in the tunnel, it just pans to Ronaldo. He's just like breathing heavily, as if he's like a predator looking at his prey. Like with his mass, like he's got such a thick neck. He's got like he's just imposing. Like it's like, what is this human being? I remember him just like I was like, oh my God, I was like to my dad, we're finished. Like, this is, like, there's no try. I remember we looked at each other and we were like, yeah, this is going to be tough.
It's over before it
Yeah.
started.
It was over before it literally was a game over before it started. This guy here was like, he was a predator. He was a juggernaut of a footballer in that period. He was frightening. I was a fan, and I couldn't sleep at night knowing that my team had to go up against him. Imagine how the defenders felt. Like, it was scary stuff. They go 1-0 up. Of course, it's Ronaldo. Beautiful finish, like toe punt on the near post. It's like, this guy's just too good. Then I forgot who scored for them again. They won 3-0. I think Marcelo scored the third, but Ronaldo scored the bicycle kick, right?
Yeah.
I forgot who scored the third goal for them. But it's 3-0. After the game, I'm thinking, it's dumb. There's no chance we're coming back into it. However, in that first leg, people forget, but the refereeing display was so poor. Now, I'm going to break it down for you. And it's overshadowed because of Ronaldo's goal. Isn't it, though? When you think of that game,
Yeah,
you only think of
Ronaldo.
I only
Ronaldo's
see that goal,
Yeah.
Because it's
I
incredible.
didn't even know the scoreline.
Yeah.
I remember exactly where I was sat in Verona Airport when that goal went in.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
Ronaldo scored a bicy. What's there to do? Juventus fans applauded him. He was the
Yeah.
best player at that minute. But there was like, Dybala's red card was like rubbish. Dybala was suspended for the second game because he got sent off in that game, straight red. It was rubbish. There were a couple penalty decisions that didn't go Juventus' way that were way clearer than the penalty that I'm sure we'll talk about in the second leg. Casemiro, handball, not given. One on Cuadrado at the end. Cuadrado shoots and Carvajal just wipes him out right at the end. It's 3-0, 91st minute. You're thinking, it probably won't change anything going into the second leg anyway, but that's a penalty. And that would have changed a lot. If even one of those penalties were given, it would have changed a lot. So that was a horrible refereeing display. The second game, I remember, this game, I'll be honest, I didn't watch. I couldn't watch it. I was on BBC Sport reading. Bro, I was that nervous. I was reading. We went 1-0 up. So, no. Calma. Mandzukic scored.
Calma.
Mandzukic scored again, calma. We went 3-0 up. I said, I'm going downstairs. I got to turn on the TV. Matuidi scored. I had never been so heartbroken in my life.
Yeah,
we went 3-0 up against peak Madrid at the Bernabeu. And last second, Michael Oliver, to this day, the worst ref I've ever seen in my life, gives a penalty on Lucas Vazquez. Benatia.
Not a pen for you?
For me, not a pen. But if you give that pen, the two pens in the first leg are stonewall, then you're looking at it.
I think that pen in isolation, again, I'm not a Juventus fan, but I like everyone, wanted Juve to win that. And it was a soft pen. I think it probably was a pen, but it was soft. And you're thinking,
in that moment,
giving it in that moment, like it's not, you don't really want to see it. And then Buffon just loses his mind. He goes absolutely mental, gets sent off.
Just
Chesney purely for dissent.
Yeah.
He gets a red card for dissent, which is insane.
I remember the interview after the game of Buffon talking about the referees. It's the most hilarious thing ever. He was like, "This man, he's not even a human being. He's like the dirt on my foot. He's a dustbin." Like, he was going in on him. He was degrading Michael Oliver like I've never seen before. He must have got a massive fine for that interview. But it was just like, in that moment, it was heartbreak.
Yeah.
It was absolutely heartbreak. And when we did the shoot with Zach, I was thinking, he was like, "A ref's coming." I was like, that's Michael Oliver.
Hold me back.
Whatever statement he says, I'm pushing everyone out the way. I'm sitting on that table and I'm saying, forget your statement. We're talking about mine.
Get the timer, just throw it away. Me and you, mate, we're
Me and
sitting
you
down
are settling this.
and we're going through this right now.
But that was so painful.
And that penalty is the one where, I don't know if he does it deliberately, but Ronaldo like gets a lift on the ball. Have you seen it? So he runs up, plants his left foot next to the ball, and the ball it takes off a little bit.
I don't know how.
And it just
that's
hits
crazy.
it. It's an unbelievable penalty in the circumstances.
He's
Because
never
Chelsea
missed
goes the
it.
right way.
Yeah, but Ronaldo in that moment is never missed.
Inevitable. Like, prime Ronaldo just, ruined you and then joined you the following season.
Yeah, it's interesting because he had been, he caused so much heartbreak. But I remember the day we signed him, I promise you, it's one of the best days of my life.
How did that come about? Because as a neutral, I remember thinking, like, something must have gone on here. Like, why has he left Real Madrid?
Yeah.
Because, I guess his season in 17-18, by his standards, was quieter. He had a quiet Champions League final, and it kind of ended maybe in a bit of a weird way. But no one thought he would leave that
I think
summer.
he must have fallen out with... I mean,
Perez.
you might know with Perez behind the scenes,
Perez,
and then also the 100 million. They got 100 million. They made a profit on Ronaldo.
Yeah, that is insane.
Real Madrid made a profit.
Yeah,
on it. It's crazy.
That's probably the best bit of business in football history.
It is 80 million or something they bought him for. Sold him 10 years later.
Yeah, you get the best, 100, second best player of all time in his prime for like 10 years, and then you make a profit. That's insane.
I think with Ronaldo it was like, I think he fell out with Perez. Either he wanted a renewal and Perez didn't want to give him more money or something. I don't know what it was exactly, but it was something to do with Perez and Ronaldo falling out. And he signed for Juventus out of nowhere. And them times there wasn't really like Fabrizio Romano tweeting about it. I feel like maybe it was because I was really young. I wasn't on social media as I am now, sort of seeing it. So I just remember opening my phone one day and I saw him holding the shirt. That was the way I found out. And I was like,
it did come about quite suddenly.
It was a
like
weird.
It came out of
weird.
nowhere.
Yeah, it was weird.
Just like overnight, Ronaldo to Juventus, it was a bomb of a signing. It was like the year before Neymar went to PSG. Year after Ronaldo joins Juventus. It was crazy. It came out of nowhere. And I don't think the Juventus fan base has been as excited ever for anything, and I don't think that will ever be topped. Like the elation around the club, the elation around the fan base, it was just like we're winning everything.
It was quite a nice story that he'd scored that goal against you. Your fans had applauded him, you guys had applauded him, and then he joins that summer. It's quite a nice like.
I think that probably helped Ronaldo join Juventus. I feel like he felt respected.
Yeah,
because Ronaldo was like.
He wants respect, doesn't he?
He wants respect.
Yeah.
He plays
He
off
wants to be
attention.
told.
Like he wants to be the man. So it's like for him to see an opposition fan base applaud him, he was like, he respected that highly and was like, wow, this could be a potential avenue joining Juventus out of all clubs. Came out of nowhere. And he did. And like the Ronaldo time at Juventus was a success for me. But in terms of like the ultimate goal to win the Champions League, it was a failure because we didn't do it. But I feel like it was more we failed Ronaldo rather than he failed us.
His time at Juventus is so disrespected.
Yes.
Like Ronaldo is the quickest player to 100 goals in Serie A.
And also 50 goals in Serie A.
And also 50. It's the first player to win all 3 leagues, right?
Yes.
And score a certain amount of goals in each campaign.
Yeah, he won like Serie A player of the season. He won a couple cannoniere, top scorer from 33 to 36.
Yeah.
And apart from the first year at Juventus, that team was like declining rapidly.
Yeah.
And he was still the main man.
He's so I think his time at Juventus though isn't looked upon as a success on him personally,
No, it's not.
and it just was. Like,
I think it's maybe
100%.
because of the timing of Juventus having got to the Champions League final a couple of years before and being up there, and then Ronaldo joined, and at least in my head, I said it just then, that it feels like Juventus dropped off when Ronaldo joined, and correlation doesn't necessarily equal causation, and I think people assume that it does.
It wasn't to do with Ronaldo. I mean, maybe when people say the finances for Ronaldo, you don't understand it. It was because of COVID, but that affected every club in the world. It was like the finances, the books were fine when Ronaldo came. We could afford Ronaldo's wage. We could afford to pay Ronaldo, but COVID, like every other club, were affected by it. Maybe not like the Saudi-owned clubs, but in general, football was affected. And that's why we struggle to bring in new players, reinforce the team in the correct manner. Of course, we probably made a few silly decisions in terms of sales. Like we sold Cancelo, we sold Emre Can, we sold... Mandzukic left. I mean, there were a couple poor decisions in that regard. Maybe we spent too much on De Ligt the year after, people could argue. Maybe we shouldn't have sacked Allegri and we shouldn't have bought in Sarri. I mean, there's so many like what ifs that we could talk about, but in general, it wasn't Ronaldo's fault. And I think the last real year for heartbreak in the Champions League was 18-19. Post that, we lost to Porto, we lost to like Villarreal. No, I don't care, because those years we could not have won the Champions League. It was 18-19 where everything amounted to that season, like Conte, Allegri's Juventus, the heartbreak in the finals, I think we're going into like 7 league titles in a row. All of that was like, this moment here is 18-19 is almost like all or nothing. It's like, this is the year we're going to win the Champions League. And it ended in heartbreak against Ajax in the quarter-final. And I look back, if I could like, I think that was the biggest failure. I do. And if I could replay any season, it would be 18-19, because going into the season, we were the favourites to win the Champions League. And we were incredible. We were absolutely incredible. We had come off the bat of the 3-0 win against Atletico when Ronaldo scored a hat-trick.
That was insane.
That is one of my favourite moments in football, where didn't you lose the first leg
2-0,
and all the Atletico Madrid fans are giving him stick, all the press giving him stick, and he looks in the camera and he goes, me, 5 Champions League, your club, 0. And then he comes and scores a hat-trick in the second leg. That is the ultimate, like, he is him moment. Like, that's ridiculous.
And I remember after the 2-0, I was smiling. But I swear to God, I was smiling. My dad was in the kitchen angry. So what are you angry for? So we just lost 2-0. What do you mean, why am I angry? I was like, I promise you, I've seen this story written time and time again. It's finally going to happen to our club. There is no doubt in my mind. He is scoring a hat-trick in the second leg. I'd never been so certain on anything. And he did.
Yeah,
and
it's so true.
We were over the moon and we were like, yeah, this is our year. We get Ajax, and that Ajax team were a tricky team. They'd beaten Madrid in the game before. Tadic was balling out. De Jong, De Ligt was like 19, captain.
Yeah, insane team.
Ziyech, it was Ten Hag's Ajax. That team was good. But we were the favourites on paper to win that. I remember my dad and I went to the first game in the Johan Cruyff Arena. We went 1-0 up. Ronaldo scored. I was elated. That was the first time I ever saw Ronaldo score live in a stadium. Then second half begins, 46th minute. I don't know if you remember, David Neres scored, right? In transition. Joao Cancelo tries to beat his man, almost like ever in 2016. He loses the ball. They score in transition. I swear on everything. Sitting next to my dad, he said to me, he's getting sold in the summer. I swear. The tie wasn't over. The game wasn't over. I said, Cancelo's been one of the best fullbacks in the world. Now he's getting sold.
Sell him now.
He has to go. Because my dad knew that would screw us. And then later on in that game, I don't know if you remember, Douglas Costa, man, he was a joy to watch, right? He did some crazy, he went on a crazy solo run. He did a La Croqueta, beat Veltman, Veltman had a headache that whole game against him. Cut inside, shoots on his left, hits the post. That would have been 2-1. I'm thinking, nah, this can't be going. Things like this are playing in my mind. It's like, this might not be our tie.
Yeah.
You're hitting the post like that after that. Then second leg begins. We go 1-0 up. Ronaldo scores again from a corner. I think Allegri, in hindsight, made the wrong decision to try and go play on the back foot, almost like Southgate against England. He tried to defend. We invited a lot of pressure. I think Van der Beek scored the 1-1 and then De Ligt scored the header.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
That was just pure, what's it called? Like heartbreak. It was just not a delusion. I don't know the exact word, but it was like you expected to win that game.
Yeah.
You were elated. It was like, this is our year. Because there's no doubt in my mind. I know Tottenham, to be fair, they went on a good run. They beat City, they beat Ajax.
History of the
But
Tottenham.
if we played Tottenham in the semis, I'm so certain we
Yeah.
would have gone to the final against Liverpool. And that Liverpool team, I think, was better than ours on paper, but with Ronaldo in the Champions
never know,
final.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Does that one hurt? Does that run in 18-19 hurt the most of the four?
Pain-wise, Real Madrid 2018.
Yeah.
Anger 2019. Like pure frustration, hatred, anger about the situation 2019.
I think I remember watching the Ajax game, and you talk about kind of moments in previous ones which went against you, and a lot of it's bad luck maybe. You kind of alluded to it there. Ajax deserved to win the second leg, I think, but that's probably where the anger comes from, because on paper they shouldn't deserve to win it. You have the players to beat them, you have the system to beat them, everything is in place to beat them, and yeah, it's probably one of the only ones where you can look back on it and be like, yeah, that was our own fault.
That was our fault.
That was our fault.
We shot ourselves in the foot in that tie. Other games, I don't like to point all the blame on the referees, but decisions were unfortunate. Goals were, some went other teams' way, but that game there was it was awful. It was awful.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, do you feel like it's been downhill from there?
Yeah.
Pretty much
I
the last 5-6 years for Juventus.
Yeah, even 18-19 there will start to be cracks.
Was that your last league title?
No, 19-20 with Sarri in lockdown.
Oh yeah,
which
Sarri
still
was-
had good moments, but
Yeah.
I think we were quite fortunate to win that league. I think, don't know if you guys remember, but before going into lockdown, Lazio were top. Lazio were playing incredibly well. Atalanta, most goals ever in Serie A history. Inter with Conte, that was their first year. They were strong. That was a tough one. That was the first year where the Serie A became very open in the sense that there were a lot of teams fighting for the league title. Before, it was always Juventus and someone else, whether that be Napoli, Roma, whoever. It was just always Juventus and someone else. That league, there was a good 3 or 4 teams.
So what's going on now? How have you gone from winning 7-8 in a row to what's it, 6 years, 5 years without a title?
5 years.
What's happened?
I would say culmination of things, probably wrong managerial appointments, wrong decisions in terms of players. Our old board that built up the success is no longer there. It's a new board, so things like that. It's just a sad decline from
Some of the names as well. I was looking at your team, that you've lost a few games in a row, I was having a look, and when we've been going over the last decade of Juventus teams and players, and you just Ronaldo speaks for itself, but all the names we've covered in this pod, there's some big players. And I look at that team now, and you're really lacking many big names at all.
Yeah,
any superstars really, and they're not.
It's true, man.
Nothing.
I mentioned to you the other day that I did a Guess the Player for the Soccer Archive, where you got to work out who the player is behind you, and I got it down to a Juventus player, and I couldn't name any.
Yeah, no, it's true. Well, they've got players like Lloyd Kelly, in defence.
It's
starting Champions League games.
I'm not hating. It's just
but it's not
where
it's
you've gone
not
from
the same.
Chiellini and
the names aren't the
Bonucci.
same.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Do you think if you had got over the line in a Champions League at any point in that run, you would still be where you are now?
Yes.
You do think so? And do you look back on those games, that run in the Champions League, fondly, or does it still hurt more than?
No, it's more pain.
Yeah,
It's more pain.
I guess because you had the success in the league, it probably makes it more painful.
You
Do you know
think,
what I mean? You
9
kind of
league
become
titles-
accustomed to the success.
Yeah, it's 9 league titles in a row. You should win a Champions League in that period. I know how good Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern, all these teams were, Liverpool in that period, specifically towards the end of it. But it's we should have won one. So it's just, looking back, it's just pain, man. Happiness when it comes to domestic success, because I don't think they'll ever be replicated in Italy, and that's like the most dominant dynasty in Italian football history, that sort of stretch. But in Europe, the thing is, it's always been like that for Juventus. Like 2003, lost to AC Milan on penalties. Nedved was disqualified in the final. Like our best player at the time, the Ballon d'Or winner that year, he didn't play in the final. 98, Real Madrid, one of the worst teams ever to win the Champions League. We had the strongest team in the world with Zidane, Del Piero, Inzaghi, Edgar Davids, Antonio Conte. Just a beast of a team. We should have wiped the floor of Real Madrid. I think that's one of the most one-sided on paper going into a final ever. They scored a goal, Mijatovic, offside, but it was a goal. 97, again, one of the worst Champions League finals ever. Juventus against Dortmund, again, one of the most one-sided finals ever. Zidane, Del Piero against Dortmund. They score a goal from halfway line, they win. And it's like, how does this happen to us?
It's one of those things that comes up with nearly teams a lot, is once it's in your head that you're just cursed, it's so difficult to shake it. And things do just seem to fall against you. And whether it's something you can actually control or it's just fate, it's something that happens to England as well a lot. And it's like, how do you get rid of that curse?
I don't know. That's the thing. I genuinely don't know. You're right. I think in terms of a nation, it's similar to England. It is. Or even Germany. Germany have lost a lot of World Cup finals, but they've gotten over the line a lot of times. So it's not really. But it's just like, you can't. It's just luck. Football is all about luck. It's all about moments. We had luck in our 9-year dominance in Italy. Things have gone our way. Real Madrid have had luck in their Champions League wins. You need luck in terms of luck of the draw moments. Look at like 2018 Champions League final. Salah gets injured straight away. Karius does what Karius did.
You need that.
Bale scores one of the greatest Champions League goals ever.
How do that many things go a team's way in the span of 90 minutes in a Champions League final? You just don't know. But it just happens time and time again. So.
And final question on that, which of those Juve teams was your favourite?
I'm going to say 17-18, simply because of the context on how we won the league. We had lost 3-0 to Napoli, and that Napoli team was strong with Sarri. I don't know how much you know, but they went top. They beat us 1-0, sorry, not 3-0. 3-0 came after. They beat us 1-0 at the Juventus Stadium. Koulibaly scored a header. They went top. I as a fan was like, we might lose this one. Napoli might have this. Game after, we play Inter Milan, 7:45 kickoff on a Sunday. We're 2-1 down, 88th minute. Cuadrado scores from an impossible angle. 90th minute, 89th minute. Dybala free kick, whips it in. Higuain scores a header, 3-2 win at the San Siro. The day after, Napoli play Fiorentina, they lose 3-0, and we're top, and we win the league from there. That's the best I've ever experienced. But it's not the best team, but it's the best.
Nice.
For me, win.
Yeah, nice.
We're running out of time, but quick one to finish off with. Your favourite nearly team of all time?
Yes, I've been told. No Juventus teams included.
No Juventus teams, because we can have the entire 2010 Juventus in there.
I'm going to go with 2014 Brazil, because my favourite player ever is Neymar.
Yeah.
He's my favourite player ever. People can't really wrap their head around how my favourite player ever is a player that didn't play for my club, but it is Neymar.
I think that's fair.
I think it's fair as well. Like, a lot of people think Messi and Ronaldo is their favourite player ever, and obviously they didn't play for their clubs, a lot of them. But yeah, Neymar. I think they won the Confederations Cup in 2013. They beat Spain 3-0, who were European champions, and also current world champions at the time, so they were the best national team. I was going into this thinking, the World Cup's in Brazil. Neymar balling out of Barcelona. He's got the gold hypervenoms. The Nike, I don't know if you guys remember the Nike Risk Everything ads dropped. I was so young. I was year 5 at the time. I was like, this is Brazil's World Cup to win. Italy were horrible, so I knew we weren't going to win. I was like, yeah, Brazil. They got a great defence. They're Julio Cesar, Marcelo, Dani Alves, Thiago Silva, and David Luiz. It's like, that defence is strong.
Yeah.
But then Neymar is almost paralysed, which people forget. He was almost paralysed against Colombia. It was horrible. It was heartbreak. They beat Colombia, but then they got battered by Germany 7-1. Look, I actually think if Neymar was there, Germany would have still won, because that Germany team was too strong. But it wouldn't have been 7-1. It would have been a more fair result.
I think Thiago Silva was the bigger.
You're right.
Because he was suspended and. Yeah, I think we mentioned it once on the pod before. I've never seen a team capitulate like that in any game or any sport ever.
It was bizarre.
It was incredible to watch a team that played so well in the tournament at home just,
Did they concede like 4 goals in like 10 minutes?
It was 5-0 after 21 minutes.
But like in 6 minutes. So I feel like I have a statistic in my head of like 4 goals in 6 minutes.
Yeah, I think it was something like that.
The real travesty from that day, not that I condone betting, was that I had a bet on Ozil. I had a bet on, I think when they went 2-0 up, I put 8-0 on.
Yeah.
I put 8-0 on. Ozil at 7-0 is running through, and all he's got to do is square the ball. I remember it to this day, to go 8-0 up. I'm like, oh my God. and he like completely fumbles the chance, and then Brazil go up the other end and get this consolation at 7-1.
Yeah.
I also had 7-0. So I had 7-0 and 8-0.
Ooh.
It's the only time in Ozil's entire career that he didn't pass when he should have done.
Yes.
He spent his entire career passing when
Just
he didn't
hurt
need
me.
to. And
Just
then he was
hurt
like,
me,
you
yeah.
got a bet on me, I'll bang this, mate.
Yeah.
30 yards, don't mind if I do.
That is a great shout.
That's
Though.
a-
That team was.
I
that
can't believe
team-
that's not come up as an early team.
No, it's a great shout. Home World Cup.
Yeah.
I think
Neymar
everything
and Thiago
was just
Silva
perfect
missing,
about
yeah.
that Brazil team. I don't know, like they all dyed their hair blonde as well. The
Yeah.
boots, the fact they was in Brazil.
Vibes were good.
It just felt like
The whole stadium
Football
was
was football
literally
then.
crying.
Yeah,
At the end
it
of that
was-
game. Like, but they were just panning around. Everyone was just sat in their seats, bawling their
Yeah.
eyes out.
So I think that's what happens to an extent when you ride emotion through a tournament. If the emotion just goes one way,
But
everything can just
I feel
change.
like, I mean, at least England, Italy, very passionate nation. Maybe you'd say, Luca, differently, but I feel like England, like we lose the final, everyone just goes, "Fuck's sake," goes home in the worst mood ever. Whereas they're just like actually
Yeah.
in tears, like it's like a state of
Yeah.
mourning.
Yeah. It's because it felt like the world was going for Brazil that
Yeah.
tournament. But
And I,
obviously-
as someone else, I love Neymar as well, and like I feel that of like he deserved that World
He
Cup a
did.
little bit. Like that would have
he was
put him
playing
in
so well.
Because Neymar, I think if Messi and Ronaldo are in a different era, like Neymar's talked about way
Oh,
higher. He's
100%.
Brazil's best ever footballer.
I think
Let's not make any mistakes about it. The
I
goals
think,
he scored,
yeah.
like the
he's
a
a
joke.
top scorer and top assister.
top
in
goal
Brazil's
scorer, top
history.
assister, and he's played in some horrendous Brazil
Yeah.
sides
Yeah.
for like 6-7 years of just average teams.
And
For
also,
sure.
it's not like that Germany team is a super iconic World Cup winning team. If Argentina
No.
had gone on to win it and Messi won the World Cup in Brazil, I'd be like, fairs, that's a great story.
That's
like.
cool, yeah.
Germany, I mean, it's just a bit inconsequential.
It's
Do
true.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
well done, great team, they deserved it. I really like some of their players, but you don't look back on that and go, wow, like that Germany team, that
No,
really
you
captured the
don't.
hearts of the world. It didn't. No offense, Germany
No,
fans.
I don't think. I think everyone was really rooting for Argentina in that
I
final.
definitely was, yeah.
But I do feel like that World Cup. I don't know why it was just like for me a perfect World Cup. It just everything about that World Cup just is what you want in a World Cup,
Yeah.
in my opinion. It was just great. It was great.
Yeah,
Mm.
agreed. Kind of
Great
actually
shout.
Russia 2018 underrated World Cup in my opinion.
Yeah.
Qatar, not for me.
Qatar was weird.
Nah,
it was
it
just
didn't
like
do it
winter. I don't
Strange.
know, man. I wasn't a fan of
Didn't.
that.
Some people are like, that's the best World Cup ever.
Nah,
no, it
the
isn't.
final was great though.
The final was the best.
That might be
football
the best game
probably
ever.
of all
That might be
time,
the
yeah.
best game ever. But
Yeah.
the actual World Cup itself, it didn't feel like a World Cup to me. It
No,
felt
it
like a
didn't.
Champions
No,
League or something.
Yeah,
it
was
was
weird.
odd.
Luca, thanks so much for coming on. That was
Amazing.
great. That was very
Amazing.
insightful.
Loved it.
Do you want to plug anything while you're here?
Yeah, follow me on all socials, JFTV Luca, and make sure you stay tuned in for the Soccer Archive videos because Ollie is going to get smoked again in the soon future.
No, it was an even battle we had the other week.
Yeah, it was, to be fair.
It was good fun. Yeah, do stay tuned for that. Thanks for listening. Subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify, rate us 5 stars, all that good stuff, and follow the socials.